Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to discuss the Chaos Dwarfs, more specifically their possible mechanics. I'm feeling rather inspired after painting over some of their minis, so without further ado, let's begin. The Chaos Dwarfs, the Darwizar as they're also known, are an extremely requested faction to join the Total War Warhammer series. They are an industrious, dark-souled, and merciless warrior race of demonsmiths, slavers, and brutal killers that dominate the dark and cheerless landscape of the Darklands. At the center of the Darklands lies a region filled with innumerable blackened factories of hellish forgers and massive armories, a dark, heartless, and nightmarish industrial empire, the likes of which surpass all others in the greater world. This small excerpt of lore might not seem relevant, but it does cover what their possible mechanics might look like. This is a race of slave masters, with many armies of slaves who constantly work around the forges in the central lands of the Darklands. So firstly, it makes sense to introduce some sort of slavery mechanic, but not in the same vein as the Dark Elf slaves, as that mechanic itself is rather limited and not very good. Slaves for the Chaos Dwarfs should do more than just provide income. Chaos Dwarves are dwarfs at heart and should indeed receive some sort of monetary benefit, but it shouldn't really be based on just that. Instead, there should be multiple ways on how slaves should work for the Chaos Dwarfs. Firstly, when in regards to standard settlements, or what could be considered standard to them, slaves should have two functions. Firstly, as expected, a monetary benefit, where the more slaves you would have in one specific settlement, the more income you would receive, but also a second function, where you could increase construction rate within these settlements by sacrificing slaves at a much faster declining rate. It is established in lore that the Chaos Dwarves themselves did make use of their slaves to build their many fortresses, so this would make sense. Especially if you're trying to establish yourself as a new power, you would want to build up your fortresses as quickly as possible. And then there should also be a unique mechanic for settlements more around the center of the Darklands, those which are known to house the many demonic forges of the Darwizar, where you could be able to use slaves at a fast declining rate in an effort to increase your research. Lore-wise, this makes sense, as many hundreds if not thousands of slaves are sent to the demonic forges on a daily basis. We know in lore that many Chaos Dwarf warlords will actively send slaves to the demon smiths at the demon forges in exchange for various benefits. This could be cash, armaments, or even new forms of technology. Slaves themselves should be a form of currency for the Chaos Dwarfs, and not a resource. What I'm suggesting here is that you would have your cash as you would normally do, but right next to it you should have your other form of currency, slaves. You should be able to freely trade slaves with other Chaos Dwarf factions. Much like you are able to coerce other races into trade agreements and military alliances via expendable income, you should be able to get such agreements with other Chaos Dwarf factions using expendable slaves. It could also be possible that you could seek agreements with the Dark Elves in a similar way, as they are also known to use slaves, but that would have to require some sort of rework for the Dark Elves. Acquisition of slaves could follow the standard format: winning a battle, choosing to enslave as a post-battle option, sacking enemy settlements, and raiding enemy territory. And indeed, if you do have the possibility to sell slaves to other factions, you should also have the possibility to purchase them from other factions too. You should also be able to use your slave currency to quickly replenish any slave units you may have. This could either work as a mechanic where you could instantly replenish your units on the campaign map, obviously just units like hobgoblin slaves and so on, or instantly being able to purchase units without having to wait until the next turn. Obviously this once again would refer to hobgoblin units rather than Chaos Dwarves, and should only be done if you have a high abundance of slaves. Think of this in a very similar sense to how the Tomb Kings can recruit those unique regiments of renown through their item building system. But rather than being able to recruit singular regiments of renown, this is a way for the Chaos Dwarfs to fill out full armies of just slave hobgoblin units. Next would be expansion in terms of empire building. Unless you're taking dwarf Karax, Chaos Dwarves should not be able to build on standard settlements by conventional means. Instead, they should have access to outposts in a very similar sense to the Wood Elves. If you can't build a large empire, this would encourage more of a raiding mentality. Obviously, more raiding means more slaves, and more slaves means more profit. Obviously, if that's the case, then they should only be able to build by conventional means in the settlements found in the Darklands. Now, if something like that would be the case, then they should have access to larger than average settlements in the areas of the Darklands. Obviously, they'd have to have some sort of capabilities to build up some sort of defensive line, or else they'll just get destroyed fairly quickly. As I stated before, I believe they should be able to take over Dwarf Karax. It makes sense to me that they would take these over and try and settle in them. At the end of the day, these are their former kin. And obviously, much like the Norskins, I expect the Chaos Dwarves to be able to take over any capital cities, such as Drakenhof, Altdorf and so on, and build there as normal. It just makes sense in a gameplay type of mechanic rather than lore. And lastly, I believe there'll be some way to introduce a Demon Forge mechanic. This, in essence, would be a direct carbon copy to how the Tomb Kings and the Dwarfs currently create items, recruit special units, and so on. Yes, this might not sound like the most exciting thing, especially as two races already have this exact mechanic. However, this should more or less stay the same, as it does make sense for the Chaos Dwarves to also have access to it, but there's also a way that this could be made fairly unique. What if you could be able to create items but sell them to other races? More specifically, the Warriors of Chaos, the Norskins, the Beastmen, anything affiliated with Chaos. You see, the Chaos Dwarves themselves are low in number, so if they can get another race or faction to do their dirty work for them, it works in their benefit. So say, for example here, you would craft a demon-infused blade and offer it to a Chaos Warlord only if the Warlord himself would send armies to sack Prague and bring back slaves to you, or destroy Kislev. These are just some examples, but this type of stuff is indeed established in lore. Why risk your own dwindling numbers when you can risk someone else? They don't matter at the end of the day. These are just some basic ideas I had in regards to the Chaos Dwarves and possible campaign mechanics. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a bit of a discussion. I'm rather curious to see what you guys have been thinking up about the Chaos Dwarves, especially since we're getting closer to Warhammer 3, and honestly I really believe that they're a core race, but then again I could be wrong, it's just a matter of time to find out. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various different social media links such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord, where you can get in contact with the Great Book team. Also in the description section below is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Using our special link and also the special code, which is also in the description below, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons, your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A special thank you to Ryan Bertsche and Gibraltar LUSC for subscribing to us at our Fame level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule and VSVasan for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you guys enough. The money earned from Patreon is going directly back into the channel, slowly upgrading little bits and bobs, just trying to get to a higher level of content for you guys. And a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. The support has been insane lately and honestly we can't be more than excited. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.